This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Welcome to The Clash, where we take a Christian worldview, allow it to clash into the culture around us, and when we're done, hopefully we do something that's important, something that you enjoy, something that will educate, entertain, enlighten. I'm not out of E words, but this is a E episode because it's an Easter episode.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff Dixon. Right here, next to me, the good-looking one in the hat, the one, the only, the saint, they call him, Chris Whaley. How you doing, Chris?
Man, I'm better than I deserve.
It's Easter.
You doing good?
I'm good.
Yeah, I was looking forward to today. Yeah. I love Easter, do you?
I think Easter's great.
I do. It's just one of my favorite times of the year.
Why?
Well, I think, I think it's amazing how a little bit of an excitement starts to boil, as you reach up to that glorious day of Easter Sunday. And then, plus, you get to see people that you hadn't seen since last year.
That's right.
So,
yeah. The CEOs, right?
Yep. Tell our audience what CEO is.
Oh, CEO in the world of church stands for Christmas, Easter only people. The people you see at Christmas and Easter, CEOs. Yeah. We call them CEOs when they come to church.
Yeah, we call them Creasters.
Yeah.
Christmas and Easter.
Sure. Yeah. That's inside church lingo, just in case you're not up on that.
Yeah.
But that's not what this episode's about. This episode, tell them what we're going to do.
Well, we're gonna look at some of the amusing stuff that has entered into the church about Easter, and we'll look at the spiritual side, and we'll just try to cover all of it.
Okay, sounds good. So don't go anywhere. This is a holiday episode. We're talking about Easter, and we'll be right back.
Jeff, do you remember the first Bible verse you memorized?
I do. I have sometimes trouble remembering the address of it, but it's John 11:35. Jesus wept. Now, when I was a kid, they were having a contest, and the goal was go home this week and come back and memorize a Bible verse. I'm a practical kid, right? I'm like, okay, what's the shortest verse I can find in the Bible? And sure enough, 2 words, Jesus wept. Fantastic, I'm on it. And so that was the first verse I ever memorized. And other people memorized John 3:16. I mean, and they were doing great stuff. But me, I just kept it simple. But I found out over time, though, that in those 2 words, I have discovered so much about Jesus and the way that he connects to us, the way he feels about us, the way he feels our pain, meets us at our point of need, his compassion and caring. It's really all wrapped up in those 2 words. And so for me, although it's silly, it's also the first verse I ever remember as a kid. Thanks for sticking around and coming back. We're talking about Easter, and hopefully whenever you're watching this, you are just a few days away from an Easter celebration. If you're watching it after Easter, what we're going to say still applies. But we're counting down to Easter, and we're filming it right around Easter just for you because we like you a lot, and we love you, and we want to share this time with you. Chris, growing up, what's Easter like in the Whaley household?
Well, growing up, when I was a little boy, my mom was a Jehovah's Witness, so she came to know Christ when I guess I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
So before that,
Put a damper on Easter, didn't it?
Pardon?
Her being a Jehovah's Witness put a damper on Easter, didn't it?
Oh yeah. But after Christ, it became something amazing. I was a little boy, and I was just amazed at the story, and I didn't come to know Christ until I was freshman in college. So there were just a lot of questions that were on my mind about this day that we were celebrating, And of course, each church does it differently, but this church had an Easter cantata, and most of the people in the choir couldn't carry a tune in a bucket.
Did they do biblical characters and stuff too?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
They did the biblical characters, and of course some of the characters had glasses and wristwatches and Sunday shoes and stuff like that. But they had the other things on. But I got questions, Jeff.
Yeah.
I got questions like how did Easter eggs come about?
Yeah.
How did that come about? You got any idea?
Well, I always heard that Jesus found them when he came out of the tomb. Is that not true?
No.
Oh.
No, that's not true. Well, you know better. Now, what's amazing is there's somebody out there listening going, they think
they
don't know you're kidding.
They also think that Jesus saw his shadow and decided it's going to be 6 more weeks.
Yeah,
spring.
6 more weeks of spring. No, I just I've had a question. How in the world did that ever happen?
Yeah.
I guess I could have asked AI and it could have told me, but
Sure.
I didn't do that. I asked a couple of Christians that I know. I said, "How did Easter eggs come about?" And one of them says, "Well, I don't know, but I think it's kind of a symbol of the new life and the resurrection." And I thought, doing that egg and putting it in the frying pan, and how did that, have anything to do with the resurrection? And then my other one is the Easter bunny.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with that?
I always heard the Easter bunny was running around the tomb. Is that not true? See, all these things I thought were true. You're shattering the mythological side of the Easter.
I guess that's another one for AI. So when we get through today, I wish I had thought of it before, and I could have done the AI thing and found out, but I didn't. But
but the Easter eggs and the bunny though, that's a part of some of that the historically pagan rituals of spring and celebrating spring.
Yeah, I guess so.
As we were locking dates into the Christian calendar, and we talk about clashing into the culture, right? I mean, it was early church leaders that really kind of set some dates as to where things needed to be. However, Easter actually has a little bit more of a historical precedent as far as getting the dates right or closer, simply because of what we know about astronomy and time of year and things like that.
Passover.
But Christmas is probably the better example of, hey, we need a date that's recognized. Let's find a date. But I think part of that is just brought into and given some of that symbolism, because again, it helps enhance what we as followers believe or want to hold on to as Easter. A lot of people think it's evil. I don't think it strips away anything from the holiday.
Yeah.
I think it creates excitement.
The clothing people, they get a big kick on this too, because I remember growing up, Mom took me to the store to get a new pair of pants, a new shirt, and new shoes.
Sure.
So you wanted to have your best on when you went there on Easter Sunday. And
I remember getting new Easter suits when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Time of year I got a suit. Easter time, right?
Easter suit.
Usually by the time I got to Easter, I'd outgrown the suit from the previous year.
Yeah.
So it was time to get a new suit.
Money wasted.
You got it. That's right. You got to get a new suit. And you got to look good for Easter Sunday morning. Everyone's coming with their Easter finest.
Probably one of the last times you wore suits, isn't it?
Yes, I don't wear them very often, so I don't see them very often.
Now, I got to tell you, the part that I do like about the pagan stuff, I love the candy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. The Easter, the chocolate eggs. Oh, man.
I'll tell you what I like. I mean, again, this is just, I'm sure I could get some kind of sermon illustration out of this, but I like those hollow chocolate bunnies.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I like to grab those things by the ears and just bam, pop that ear off.
Pop that off. Ooh, yeah.
Put that thing down. Yeah. That's pretty brutal if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we teach our kids to do that. That's probably not real healthy, but at the end of the day, it's still a lot of fun.
Why is Easter Sunday the most attended Sunday of the year?
Well, you got some mamas that can still exert some guilt on their kids to get them to church. That's part of it. That's kind of like a Mother's Day thing too. But I think if I want to get kidding aside, I think because in all of us, every human has this piece of them in their DNA that really has, whether they can put a finger on it, state it out loud, a longing to create to the Creator. And the life that we're intended to have.
Mm-hmm.
And because Easter sets us up for that,
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a inner gyroscope, if you will, that just really kind of compels people to
Right.
either want to get to church or at least think spiritual thoughts and do something that is a little bit different. I mean, I know some folks that would never darken the door of a church, but they never missed an Easter sunrise service at a park or at SeaWorld or at, the one I remember going to, and I went every year, was at Edgewater High School, right around the corner from my house. We would go to the Easter sunrise service at Edgewater High School. Someone would come up over the football stadium, we'd be sitting in it. You know, I mean, pretty powerful moment. So loaded with people that never would go to church later.
Yeah.
They're going back home and drinking coffee and putting their jammies back on. But
I remember as a senior pastor, one of the most joyful Sundays was Easter Sunday, and one of the most depressing was the Sunday after.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because you go from full to quasi-full the next week, attendance-wise, right?
And then a lot of the regulars took a day off too. So
We're exhausted after Easter.
Yeah.
Jesus did the heavy lifting, but we need to take a day off.
There you go. There you go. Well, I've dominated. You go ahead.
No. I as a kid, I have some real fond memories of obviously the new suit, going to church, the worship, Easter Sunday morning worship. I remember the cantatas too.
Oh yeah.
I know you'll find this hard to believe, but there was a string of years when I had a lot longer hair and it was dark that I was.
You was always Jesus.
I would portray Jesus, man.
Always.
I was crucified more often than I can remember.
Yeah.
And of course my dad had a great wicked sense of humor. And anytime I would get too full of myself around Easter time, 'cause I was young and dumb and always running my mouth, and he'd say something like, "So you think you're a big deal playing Jesus, son?" I say, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Don't forget who I am."
Who was he?
Well, he'd be God, right? so at the end of the day, and he would just kind of let that sit out there. And it took me a couple of years to figure, what is he saying to me at this point? But because again, I was really young and dumb, and my dad was just so smart and so funny.
I would tell you that. I do love today. I do love the power of the Easter music.
Yeah.
I love my daughter's choir director for First Orlando, and I love to go back online and watch that.
Sure.
I mean, just beautiful worship, celebration music. I do love that part. I do. Yeah.
Well, I always say, I mean, you've heard me say it here. Christmas comes along in the life of a believer ultimately, and Christmas is the event that gives us hope.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, Christmas comes with the birth of a baby, and we know the story of Jesus, right? Baby born to die, but God is with us, Emmanuel, God with us, and so Christmas gives us hope. But Easter is different because Easter makes us heroes. See, Easter gives us the life that we can't get any other way. If there is no Easter, we can't live heroic lives. If there is no Easter, we can't be the people we were created to be. If there is no Easter, we can't impact and change the world and fulfill our destiny. And so I think that's heroic. And so,
I love
so
that.
we get hope at Christmas, but Easter is where we make the heroes.
Yeah. And I get to listen to this every Sunday.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it makes you want to run for the hills, doesn't it? But anyway, but so let's come back a little bit and talk after this next break let's talk about some of the spiritual dynamic of what we celebrate Easter.
Well, we need to do that because people are going to turn us off if we don't.
Yeah, and all they're going to remember is we tear the ears off chocolate bunnies and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, Chris, I was just doing my laundry and look what I found.
Oh my goodness! Look at that, the Clash.
The Clash T-shirt.
I love that.
You know what makes it so special?
Why?
Well, because this is the Clash TV show. This is our logo. This came out of my laundry bucket. That means that these T-shirts are available for everybody to buy, and that means that when you need to do some shopping, that special gift. Think about it.
Yep.
You've been invited to a wedding.
Right.
You buy a wedding present for the bride and groom.
Wow.
Matching Clash T-shirts.
How awesome!
Every
would that
home
be?
needs that. When they have a baby, what do you want to get the baby?
A onesie.
A onesie, a Clash onesie. You can get that as well.
Right.
If you're looking for that extra special gift for a loved one,
Right.
you can go to the Clash store and get a Clash journal. You can get Clash magnets. You can get Clash widgets and gadgets and keychains, all of that is available. All you have to do is visit the Clash store.
We live in a great day, Jeff.
We do. And perhaps the greatest store out there is the Clash store. So follow the QR code at the bottom of the screen. You can go to the Clash store and get stuff your very own. It'll make us happy. It'll make the show even better. And you can put on your Clash gear while you watch every single episode of the Clash.
Absolutely.
Hi, welcome back to the Clash. While you were gone on break, Chris and I were sharing war stories of Easter memories of church life and what that looked like, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. And I think Jesus appreciates that. Yeah. As we were talking about that, though, we just can't get away from the fact, though, that the reason that Easter is what it is simply because Jesus loved us enough to die and go into a tomb and come out of that tomb to give us life.
Yeah.
There's so much, in this next 10 minutes or so, there's so much that we could pack into the Easter story.
Right.
Let me start. I'm intrigued when I think about Easter, and I think it's easy to miss, is the amount of prophetic words that Easter became the fulfillment of. Yeah. Prophecy in the Old Testament, especially Isaiah. You go back and you start reading some of those Old Testament things, which says so many years before Jesus ever was here. Yeah. And you start reading them through a New Testament lens. And these Old Testament prophets, I got it. They're inspired by God. They were just nailing. Oh, yeah. In a bad way. They were just nailing everything they said. Calling it to a T. Can you imagine being in the Old Testament era, hearing that? There is absolutely no way anyone could have ever imagined what that was going to be like when Jesus was here on planet Earth. Yeah. I'm absolutely intrigued by that.
Yeah. The suffering servant passage in Isaiah 53. What's really amazing, that was written over 600 years before, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And yet, there's your word, he nailed it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I used to read Isaiah 53 when we were doing the Lord's Supper in between. I'd do half of it after the bread and half of it after the juice, because it just is so graphically right on spot.
Pierced for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. Yeah. Man,
everything. Yeah. Jeff, we are actually celebrating the real foundation of the Christian faith. The real foundation of the Christian faith is the resurrection.
It is.
Jesus lived, he died, he was put in a tomb. 3 days later, he came out of that tomb alive and well. Yeah. That's the foundation of the Christian faith right there.
And, and whether you're a believer or not, it's the day that splits history. Right? It splits it into two eras. I don't care what you call them, but there's that moment where the Easter event becomes that pivotal moment that all of human history begins to revolve around and calendar itself off of, and things like that. And that is, that's from a non-Christian standpoint, that's just amazing. Yeah. But even if you don't come from a Christian viewpoint, right? When you talk about the fact that how Isaiah 53 says it so well, but the odds of Jesus fulfilling all of the Old Testament prophecies to the letter like he did, they are not only just overwhelming, they are staggering, impossible, right? And yet they do, which is part of the miracle of Easter.
That is part of the miracle of Easter. Yeah. Well, I came up with this, Jeff. I just wanted to see what you would think about it, because I think you're going to like it. And you might even, down the road, I might even hear this in one of Jeff's sermons.
And I promise you, I won't give him credit for it, because after I say it 3 times, it's mine. One way or the other, right? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. Okay. I came up with this. The difference between the cross, which is payment, to the resurrection, which is victory. So you have payment on the cross. You have victory in the resurrection. You like that?
I like that.
Is that is it spot on or what?
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to use it?
I'm sure I will. I won't use it this year. In fairness to the Clash, I won't use it this year. But wait, I'm sure I don't forget.
But that is, man.
I've got one for you that I am going to use this year. A phrase I've been playing with and lobbing around. Right. And it's simply that his absence from the tomb is what gives us his presence in our lives. His absence is our presence.
I like that.
You like that?
I do.
Tune in Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Church at 434.
That's change God's our present.
Yeah, that works, right?
I love that.
So you're going to hear that actually in just a few days, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Well, if there's somebody sitting out there, Jeff, looking at our program for the very first time and listening to us about Easter, what does the empty tomb actually mean for everyday people that are listening?
Well, the empty tomb is that moment where death is forever defeated. Mm-hmm. And because death is defeated, we only have to face, as the Bible calls it, the shadow of the valley of death.
Right.
Because Jesus takes the hit, he takes the sting, he takes the pain. And that sacrifice for our sins, because we all deserve to die because of our sins, they separate us from the love of God. Because we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, that price had to be paid. Jesus does that on the cross. Mm-hmm. He's buried. A whole lot of events around that. 3 days later, that tomb is empty. In other words, death is forever defeated, so we can live forever with him. Mm-hmm. And we just accept that. The invitation is to accept that as a gift that he offers to us. Mm-hmm. It's a gift for eternity with him, but it's also a gift for life abundant with him now. Mm-hmm. And so that empty tomb stands as a symbol of the fact that we don't have to worry about death. The emptiness, the finality of death has been defeated.
Right.
And death couldn't hold him. The Roman government couldn't hold him. Satan couldn't hold him. I mean, nothing can stop the resurrection power of God. Yeah. And that moment, that empty tomb, is so symbolic of that. And the most amazing thing about that is, we look back on the story now and we get the joy of reading it from Scripture. We can talk about it on a TV show. We can go to church and hear about it. People will during the course of the weekend. Can you imagine what it was like to live that real time?
No, I can't.
I mean, if you were one of the disciples, can you imagine what that 3 days between the cross and the empty tomb was like? Because even when they found out the tomb was empty, for a while, it's like, there's no way. I mean, something else has happened. Mm-hmm. I mean, because dead guys don't get up and walk.
Right.
I mean, those had to be agonizing 3 days.
Even though Jesus actually gave us a snapshot.
Oh, yeah.
With the raising of Lazarus.
Sure.
Standing outside the tomb saying, Lazarus, come forth.
Oh, he remember he brought the boy back to life at Nain.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so Jesus, if they should have known, if anybody can do this, Jesus can. But of course, just now, he's dead.
Yeah.
As opposed to bringing somebody else back.
Everybody's thinking that they failed. It's over. Yeah.
Scared to death, afraid that they're going to be persecuted and killed. The angst of getting to Easter. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes, even in our culture, that's one of the things that people will struggle with sometimes, because life is turbulent and they go through struggle and they experience, I used the word a minute ago, angst in their life sometimes. And if you don't know there's an empty tomb at the end of that angst, you're miserable. But I mean, I know that when I'm going through a rough time, when I'm going through problems, when I'm going through those darker moments, what keeps me going is the fact that I know this is not a done deal and that there is hope at the end of this journey. Mm-hmm. So part of that 3 days is very symbolic of what our culture's like sometimes, because we are in pain sometimes. Yeah, waiting for the resurrection day.
And we're so blessed to be on this side of the cross in the resurrection. We're so blessed because, I like to look at it in the days when you had VCRs.
Oh, yeah.
And, you'd put a VHS tape in there, and I would tape the Miami Dolphins. Now, if they won, I watched it. If they lost, I just taped over it. But if they won, I watched it. And I could sit there with a glass of tea and smile. If they fumbled, I could just smile. My blood pressure never went up because I knew how it was going to end.
Right.
I knew how it was going to end.
Yeah.
I had that excitement. And that's the same hope that we have. We've read the book.
Yeah.
We know how it's going to end. This is the foundation. This has paved the way. So we get to be a part of something that is absolutely awesome. I mean, the resurrection has to do with hope beyond death. It has to do with abolishing fear, and even those who have failed so badly, like Simon Peter. I mean, think of how would you like to be that guy? One of the last things he did before Jesus was crucified was he denied him three times. And I think that's why he tried to outrun John on the way to the tomb, because but it's just an amazing thing that we get to be a part of.
I love the dolphin story. I remember, boy, this is going to date me, but years ago, the first Alien movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't scream in space. When the crew is out there, and I mean that was a pretty scary movie when it came out, if I'm remembering correctly. Mm-hmm. But I was with a group of people who were watching this thing, and one of the guys got up when it was getting so intense, and he went out to the lobby. It took a long time. I'm like, where are you at, man? This movie's. I mean, this is my heart's pumping. I mean, I'm sweating. This is crazy, right? Because in space, no one can hear you scream. And so he comes back in though, and he sits back down with a big bucket of popcorn, and he's just smiling ear to ear. And he's just eating popcorn. While I mean, there is just carnage happening on the screen.
Yeah.
And so after some was like, man, where did you go? What are you doing? You missed so much of the movie. He goes, it was getting too intense and I couldn't take it. He said, so I went out to the lobby, and he goes, I finally got a little girl at the concession stand to tell me how the movie ends. And after I knew how it ended, I'd come back in and watch it. Because I knew it was going to be okay. And I'm like, dude, that's an Easter story, right? And he goes, exactly. Because it is in so many ways. We get the luxury of knowing how this thing ends because Jesus, he did the heavy lifting for us. I mean, that's the joy and the fun and the excitement of Easter, which brings us back to, in some ways, like why we can do egg hunts, why churches sponsor egg hunts as a party for the community, because we know how this thing ends. And then we're the people who have something to be excited about.
Yeah.
And we get to share that with a culture that desperately needs answers.
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and I think we really need to give our audience something. And I want to tell you that Easter isn't just an event, because it is an invitation to a transformation. Mm-hmm. And your life can be transformed. You can have hope. You can have hope over fear. Your life can be totally transformed because of the resurrection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Changes everything.
Yep. Changes everything.
And because of that, we, a couple guys here on this TV show, get to talk to you every week about life and the world and wrestlers and anything else that's out there because of the hope that we have and we get to live every day that only is available to those that discover the reality of Easter.
Right. And for you believers out there, I want to ask you, are you celebrating Easter or are you experiencing it? Because you ought to be experiencing it along with that celebration.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes all the difference.
Makes all the difference in the world.
And so, if you're out there and you don't know Jesus, for some reason you have stumbled across this program, the email addresses you're going to see in the closing credits, you can email either one of us.
Everyone, yep.
And we would be happy to share with you how you can discover the hope of Easter for yourselves. And in the meantime, we just want you to have a happy, incredible Easter, and just remember that you're loved.
All right.
Chris, why don't you get us out of here?
I will. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by him. I pray that you've got that in your life. If you don't, make sure you email us. And until then, don't tap out.